9 now.
A little something for the weekend with Sam Hunt.
The one and only, there can be only one. It is Sam Hunt. G'day, Sam.
Oh, hello, good day, Wammo. I thought our co-caco had forgotten his line.
He was like, oh, how does that go again?
That's the one, yeah. It sort of looks like he got out on the stage ready to go and he couldn't remember the opening line.
Oh.
Well, nature, actually, I was just thinking before you rang, and good morning, Wammo.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that up here where I live, our house is up on the Totra tops down by on the Kaipara, and we literally have a bird's eye view, and you realise standing here that nature's just one big shag, really. I mean, they're all hard at it at the moment.
Especially now, eh?
Oh, yeah. I've just been watching, and yesterday I had a strange sight, speaking of nature at its work.
Yeah.
Looking down into the sort of, some raupo just down on the shoreline. I thought, what sort of bird is that?
Yeah.
It was this huge, what looked like a huge hawk. And it took me, in fact, to get the binoculars to work out it was two hawks, and they were mating.
It just reminds me of a couple of weeks ago, I was staying up at Tutukaka.
Yeah.
And woke up to the sound of two gulls going at it on the bonnet of the car.
Well, I've
And they left a hell of a mess behind.
Yeah, well, one does if you do these things on the bottom of cars. I've been there myself. I'm just thinking about last week. I'd been reading and then talking about Carl Stead's memoirs, which I've loved, and was talking about R.A.K. Mason. Ron Mason.
Yeah.
You may remember the little bit where the teacher, what's his name, Butch Brown, said to Stead in his class, said that we were an ignorant pack of slobs. And the poem that he just read, Butch says, this was a poem by a New Zealand, in italics, New Zealand poet, R.A.K. Mason, and we should know it, and we should know his work. Well, since reading that, of course, I've been going, as I often do, back to Mason, R.A.K. Mason, reading his poems. He's just so good. I don't know if anyone who does not familiar with R.A.K. Mason, he was born in 1905, and he wrote he went to Auckland Boys Grammar School. In fact, a lot of his poems were in fact written when he was still at school. And he wrote as a young man. He used a lot of Christian imagery, and you'd think it's a Christian, but he's not. He wasn't. As far as I know, he was atheist. He was a very strong communist, very strong back in when that was sort of more the thing, I suppose. Have a listen to this one, little 8-liner, very sort of typical of this, but amazing young man to be writing this stuff back in 1924.
Yeah.
This one's an 8-liner from a collection called No New Thing, and this is just an 8-liner. If the drink that satisfied the son of Mary when he died has not the right smack for you, leave it for a kindlier brew. For my bitter verses are sponges steeped in vinegar, useless to the happy-eyed, but handy for the crucified.
Cool.
He's good, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, for my bitter verses are sponges steeped in vinegar, useless to the happy-eyed, but handy for the crucified. And I've often thought, like there's a story told about Mason when he just published one of his early books called The Beggar. And somebody, I forget who it was, but met him in Queen Street, Mason, and he said he'd just been down to the end of Queen's Wharf and thrown a box of 200 copies of his book, The Beggar, into the tide, into the Waitemata, and that he was greatly relieved. And what did he say? He says, "Thank God, I've got rid of a few of them off my mind anyway." But it must have been a very hard thing, I mean, I grew up around New Zealand in the '60s, and it was sort of to do your own, to use that cliche, to do your own thing always seemed to me pretty easy. It wasn't much of an argument. But back in if I'd been born in the 20s, growing up in the 1920s,
Quite different, yeah.
quite different, eh? I like what Fairbairn. A.R.D. Fairbairn was a contemporary of Mason. In fact, they went to school together, and he wrote of this is 1929. This is the other thing. I get sick of the academics who are often going on about New Zealand finding its identity. Well, I shouldn't blame them. No, that is a real thing. But listen to this. But he wrote. This is something that Fairbairn wrote about Mason in the New Zealand Artists Annual of August 1929. He says in it, it is a tragic thing. This is Fairbairn writing that a book. This is the beggar. That a book of this sort should find its way into the hands of only a scattering of people in all Australasia. There seems to be very little hope of establishing a native literature in New Zealand as long as the people of that country continue to ignore the claims of a talent of this sort. Yeah, and just think how how brave they were.
I sometimes wonder, going back through history, hundreds of years of human civilization, whether right now is the first time that we've ever experienced the kind of social freedoms that we have, or it's kind of cyclical, or things go round.
Well, that's right. That's because the old Yeats thing, turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Great stuff.
Because it seems like, in Roman times they had perhaps a lot more social freedom than what we do now.
Yeah, and of course within the bigger movements, the bigger circles and spheres, the smaller ones,
Yeah.
Speaking about that sort of thing, I'll read you. This is a poem of Mason's that I've just found. I've never found this poem before. I found it over the last week. It's again. If somebody tuned into the station now, they'll think they've got it on the Jesus dial. Anyway, because it's got a lot of religious imagery by a man who used to like that imagery. Because he also wrote that great Judas Iscariot, of course.
Yeah.
But have a listen to this one. He was 17 when he wrote this. It's called The Seventh Wound Protests. It was the first wound of Jesus that spoke out loud and bold. Oh, I who nestle by his heart know it is nearly cold. It was the second wound of Jesus that spoke from his right breast. Oh, I who gauge his failing breath know it has nearly ceased. It was the third wound of Jesus that spoke from his left palm. Oh, I who feel his racing pulse know it will soon be calm. It was the fourth wound of Jesus that was so pale and wan. Oh, I, who am in his right hand, know how death draws on. It was the fifth wound of Jesus that cried from his left foot. Oh, I, who mark his falling blood, know it is nearly out. It was the sixth wound of Jesus that answered in great pain. Oh, I can vouch that I've seen almost the last drop drain. It was the seventh wound of Jesus that spoke out. 7, 7. 7 are the deadly wounds that call out against heaven. Really interesting, eh?
Powerful stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So that's thanks to, for me anyway, and anyone who's enjoyed those poems.
Absolutely.
R.A.K. Mason, and that's nice sort of reading the memoir, Southwest of Eden of Carl Stead's, and that taking you back. And it's great. It's like with music, isn't it? You get onto some jag, and you next thing you know, you're back listening. In a way, I think of Mason. In a way, for me, he's almost like New Zealand's Woody Guthrie.
Oh yeah.
In a strange sort of way, he's sort of almost like he's always there, and even when he's not there, he's behind there somewhere. You can be heard. It's lovely. It's good. I don't know. I mean, somebody could write a PhD on why Sam Hunt thinks of R.A.K. Mason and Woody Guthrie, but I could write a PhD. Maybe I should write a PhD.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, I could be Dr. Hunt. They give me a little prescription, a little pad.
I was going to say that, Dr. Hunt.
Dr. Hunt.
It's got a nice ring to it.
It has got a nice ring. Anyway, look, have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.
I've got a couple of shows with Gary McCormick. I've got one on Saturday night at Matakana.
Yeah.
At trendy Matakana, and I won't be going there for the market. And then on Sunday afternoon, we're up in Whangarei at a place called Salute,
Ooh.
So salute on Sunday afternoon. So it's a working afternoon for this boy.
Good-o, all right. Well, people might be able to spot you there.
Well, you have a good weekend, Wammo. Look after yourself. Stay out of danger's way.
Certainly. We'll stay away from those gulls on the bonnets.
I don't know. I think I may go and join them. See ya.
See ya.
That was a little something for the weekend with Sam Hunt, only on Kiwi.